What you're looking at is my project truck. I work on it when the spirit moves me. Now is one of those times. It's a 1985 Ford Ranger sitting on a 2002 Ford Ranger chassis. Sporting only the best of engines, a 2.3 Duratec. Being propelled by a 6-speed manual transmission. Steering linkage, clutch slave cylinder, brake linkage, drive shaft installation, radiator installation. Today I'll show you how I made all of these things fit and work on this old truck. Warning, you will see a whole lot of butchering going on. It's okay. I have another cab and that will be used for my finished product. The hydraulic clutch is all bled out and it does work, but it takes a whole lot of effort to push it down. I'll show you what I did wrong and how we're going to correct it. Reason the clutch pedal is so hard is because the original slave cylinder looked like this. It's made like at an angle or a taper. When you put it in, it puts it in the right position to go up to the pedal. The Miata slave cylinder was just flat, perfectly flat, so I put it flush against the firewall. When I did that, I had to lower this pin on the pedal like 4 inches down. By moving the pin down, I lost all of my leverage. So now it became real hard to push. So now I'll show you how I fixed it. After trying many different things, this is where we're at. I ended up bending the firewall like that to make the thing fit on there, and it's not nice and it's not pretty. And it's a horrid mess. Cab's got to come off so we can clean it all up. Here's a closer look at this mess. And I need to come up with some kind of a plate, I think, to put on there. This is not going to work the way it is. Looking worse all the time. I just knocked some seam sealer out. Check it out. She's rusted quite badly in my opinion. This was my first step, making this plate. Now I'll take our slave cylinder, I put a plate on it also, put it at the right angle with this rod, set it up there like that, weld it, and make a box around it. Here's our plate all welded up, and I did cut a hole for the wiring, that 2x4 box over there. All the holes are cut, everything looks good. Gonna stick it on the truck and see how it does. There's the plate all mounted up to the truck. Everything's looking good. I did have to grind a little bit off that corner, as you can see, no big deal. Brake booster fits good. Rods are cut to length. We're going to do the steering now. This is where we're at with the plate. It's on, mounted, everything's good, but I had to cut this piece off right here because I hooked the steering up. I was able to actually weld the end on to the column and then just slide it up and hook it to it without using a U-joint. Updated plate right here, and that was stupid and a waste of time, so I ended up welding it back on instead of making a whole new plate. There was some good that came out of it. I ended up putting studs here that are welded on, so it'll be nice and secure to the body of the truck now. And I am happy in the end with the way the steering came out. I will show you that shortly. So there's the plate in there, the 3 studs going through the firewall for the steering shaft deal to hold it in place. And I'll give you a closer look at my U-joint. The U-joint I welded onto the shaft right there of the steering column, and I made a little adapter right here which I can unbolt if I need to. but that joint is out of, I think, the Ford Fusion that we had here. And now it'll just slip together on this intermediate shaft with no issue. Peek up in there and you will see our steering U-joint. It has two now, one on the bottom, one on the top. The one on the bottom, of course, is the factory one. Works good. Brake booster, I had to extend the shaft. It actually came out pretty good. There's a brake booster. The steering has plenty of clearance, and so does the slave cylinder for the clutch. Everything seems to be working out good. The radiator and condenser is much bigger on the newer truck, so I want to use that with this engine. It belongs with it anyways, but it's presented a problem because it's not going to fit in this small little spot where the old radiator and condenser were. This part right here, for whatever reason, was already hacked up. See how it's cut out right through there? Compared to this side, which is how it's supposed to look, my plan is to cut this core support right here, and then lower it down. I may not reconnect it right now because I am going to use the other cab. I don't want to do double work where it's not necessary. This is what it looks like after being cut. I basically cleaned out all the inside. I did leave the front, and I also, everywhere I cut, I left like a lip sticking out at a 90, just a little bit, because it adds strength. View of the front, and it still looks the same, but I want to show you how the condenser fits in there. This is going to be absolutely perfect. It'll fit. Basically, like so. It'll hang down a little bit. It'll get plenty of air for the air conditioning. It's going to work out great. And we have room for the radiator. Condenser's not going in right now for obvious reasons. Woo! Perfect fit. The radiator has fit in here absolutely perfectly. I'm so happy with the way everything's turning out. The condenser will fit right in there too. Things are looking nice. This right here is actually a little tall. I'll end up lowering this just a little bit to center it up where the fan and the shroud, come together. It needs to be centered up, and it's not quite right. It needs to go a little bit lower, and we'll do that on the other cab. Your inside view, and the deal is it'll bolt right here on the very top on both sides right there, and then there's brackets down lower, which I just have it zip tied in now, down lower. But eventually there'll be brackets that hold it. Fits perfectly. See how the hose even lines up right there? Everything's looking good. Time now to figure something out with a drive shaft here. We need one desperately to make this truck move. Oh. The Miata drive shaft was so much smaller than this. Look, a whole bunch of slop. And if I use this U-joint, see, it's not gonna fit. It's gonna be hard to get it straight. But I have a solution. This is a ring out of another drive shaft yoke or whatever, and it fits in here tight like the other one did. And then this fits perfectly inside of that. That should center everything up, keep everything tight, and be halfway decent. This really does need a bigger U-joint right here, but for now, we just need this truck rolling under its own power. My thoughts are that this chain roller will be a nice straight cut all the way around. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's probably straighter than I could do with the cutoff wheel. Make sure if you do this before you weld it that your U-joint cups are aligned correctly on the shaft. If you'll note, this top one is in the same spot as the bottom. What I mean is in line with. And if that is not correct, you will have a vibration. There it is in the truck. Everything seems to be rotating nice, smoothly. No wobbles or none that I can see right now. There is about 1.5 inch gap right here right now, but it's on the lift. I'm going to lower it down and check what the gap is there. It should reduce it, I'm thinking, by at least 1/4, maybe more, so we'll have a little over 1 inch right there. You can actually balance a drive shaft using a timing light, believe it or not. And some of you old timers out there know exactly what I'm talking about. If we have to take that route, that's what we'll do before I have to spend that big cash at the drive shaft shop. I had issue with the starter. I had forgot this starter may not work with that flywheel. The flywheel's off of Miata, this is off a Ranger, and it did not work. It was always staying engaged, touching the flywheel, these teeth were, and it chewed it up. The flywheel pretty good, unfortunately. My thoughts were, let's go and get the Ford Fusion starter and try that one. And it did have a much more narrow Bendix gear on it than this one did, but it still was touching the flywheel. I'm sure that I need a Miata starter probably to fit on there. There's something different about it. But for now, what I ended up doing was cutting part of the Bendix off and make it shorter, believe it or not, because I don't want to spend $200 and some on a starter. I actually got away with it. It works, and it works great, so we have a starter. Here's a little footage of the Bendix I hacked up. So I guess it's time. Everything's rigged up. I got a few cab bolts in there, a couple bed bolts, a couple seat bolts. All the wires are out of the way. We have a battery chunked in it right there. It's full of water for right now. The reservoir is messed up, so I just taped it a little bit. Things are looking promising. This will be our maiden voyage. Well, we're on the road. Let's try it out. Heads first. Second. Man, this thing is sweet. It rides nice. Check out my alignment. Look at that. Nearly perfect straight steering wheel. Not even Rick and Harlow could do that. Throttle cable just broke. Crap. Not cool. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Get out here and see what I can do. I don't want to turn it off. I'm afraid it won't start back. Uh-oh. So far, so good. No vibration in the drive shaft whatsoever. None. I feel no vibrations at all in this truck. Oh, crap. So, the driveway, the throttle cable messed up again. I'm just trying to limp her on. I don't have any throttle. We're just idling along here, getting it off the road. She certainly has issues, missing a little bit when you get on it. Not really a surprise. It's probably that fuel pump. It's junk. And who knows when it was tuned up last. Well, we made it. We'll go on down here and fix the throttle cable, and I'll play some more. She's boiling a little bit. Oh, she's hot. Perhaps it's a little low on water. I'll fill her up. Now with all this stuff out of the way, I wonder what we should do next. Stay tuned. And as always, thank you for watching the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt.